Wow. As I was going through this, I kept finding things I couldn't quite work with. And then I finally realized this is a heart. He's looking at a heart. This is actual muscle of a heart. These are little sarcomere blocks, and these are layers of heart muscle. They're really gnarly in the heart. And that's just the outside fascia. All right, and the muscles are right underneath. These are like constrictor, you know, and he's looking at some very, very interesting places on this heart, and he can't make sense of them, and I couldn't either at first, but I think I have. Now, he started off by looking at this thing. Now, I think this is all heart tissue in here, and these are all muscle fibers that are doing this. Now, that has to have something to do with pumping blood from somewhere to somewhere else, and it's all coated with a whole ton of layers of tissue surrounding it. At first, I thought it was a sweat pore, and now I don't think so anymore. I think it's a very strong tubing that was running to somewhere else to pump blood or to absorb blood into this heart. And I'll show you that stuff up close. And here it is right here. You see all these layers? You see all this gooey stuff? That's how these valves are. These things are very, very complicated. The layering of tissues, I don't think they even know how many layers of tissue there is. And here he is up close. You see this? You see that? Let me bring this up real close. Those are heart sarcomeres. You can actually see the sarcomeres. These are the sarcomere lines. You see this between each one? All of these, and he points it out. He says, wow, you see all these little blocky lines? That's how sarcomeres work. That's how they work. I believe they constrict this way, and they slide against each other here. This is the phosphate line, which is the phospholipid layer, and these are the sarcomeres. That's some form of heart muscle, and it's surrounding whatever that tube is that's coming out of there. All right, so as far as I'm concerned, this is some kind of heart muscle, and then there's going to be an artery or vein, whatever. Here is the main tube. Let's look at that a little closer. I'm just guessing at the moment. This just fell on me to realize this is a heart as I got deeper and deeper into it. Okay, my friends, this is Myron. This is Myron Cook, and you can come up and watch this whole video. I just want to respond to what he's looking at. And what I see here is the tangled web of cardiac muscle, how it tangles like this. And that is the surface fascia, basically. And down here, there's all kinds of holes and perforations through here, which he mentions. There's the big ones, there's small ones, there's all this. What he has looked at was an artery, a big artery like this, only much, much bigger, coming out of the side, and saying, what could this possibly be? And he's asking all kinds of questions, and I think I have the answers if you look at it in a biological way. Now, I'm just going to play what he has to say about this formation, because he's going to be pointing to 3 big sinkholes and saying, what's going on here? I'm trying to answer his questions. That's what this is. This is fair use. I'm not trying to steal this video. Here goes.
Expanding our area of investigation, there's something here right above this outcrop I want to show you. It appears to be some sort of collapse feature. From higher above, more of these features come into view. 3 large holes are readily visible above our interesting outcrop.
All right, you see there's 2 fairly good sized ones, 1 smaller one. You see all this red clay here? I'm telling you, this is a heart. Now, he outlines it and everything. And I could see the fabric, I could see that main artery, which which is extremely obvious when you look at it closely, which I have, or you will see it. But he's going to continue to talk about these holes, and does anybody have any idea? Well, I do.
Could they be related?
Yes, they are.
Well, this is quite the hole in the ground here, a sinkhole, that's what I like to call it. The cot.
Well, actually, I think, Myron, respectfully, I believe this is a valve, a vein valve, or at least one of the main arteries going into the heart.
Of it is yet to be determined. It's made of limestone, kind of thinly bedded, platy. It has some of the similar textures as what we just saw. So it's definitely deposited in the same basic way as far as this rim here. And with the drone we saw there are a couple others just nearby.
Looking more closely at the largest one, named the Devil's Punch Bowl, we see some classic features. Notice the way...
All right, let me get rid of this here. He's going to talk about, look at this flat plate here. And look at all this wrinkly stuff above it, and all this scruffy stuff covering the top. These are not layers deposited by sediment. These are layers of tissue. And you get down to where you're inside the heart, and
wavy bedding here, and the vertical fabric in this layer. Here is a typical sample of the rock.
That's most.
I'm thinking that these are somehow connected to the outcrop we were just looking at. So, as a young geologist coming out and making these observations, I would assume they're connected until I'm proved otherwise by other observations.
All right, let's talk about that, Myron, because I believe my observations are completely valid. That is a heart. All right, Myron's looking at this, and he's looking at that all gooey stuff up there, and then a layer of flat platey stuff, and then more of that below. He's looking at this right here. He's looking at the same as this. This is biology. That is a membrane, and so is that. This is the gooey layer around the fascia, basically, that coats these fibers. All right, this is just a membrane right here to here. In between is the fluid-filled highway. You see that? That was just fluids. This, I'm not sure where it is. I think it's above this layer, and you know, it's in the heart tissue. This is not heart tissue. This actually is from a lung. These are the alveoli of the lung. You see those little round balls? Those are alveoli, and it's cut here. And then you're down, well, actually it goes this way. This is the fluids which were inside the body, the systolic, I know, let's just call them fluids. A layer of fluids that just hardened. And then you get into your membrane, and then you get into your deep membrane. Just before you get past into the deep membrane, you have to go through the fluid-filled highway. That's this. Where he is, I'm not sure. And this, though, is heart muscle, and this is the pleura that wraps around a lung, and this is we're cutting right down right into the lung alveoli here. And if we went deeper and deeper and deeper, you get more and more holes. And it was cut off. This was just sent to me by my good friend Greg Morrison, and you can even see the fabric still here of the lung. I can feel it, and I look at it in a microscope. You can see where the alveoli started, these little round holes. So basically that's what he's looking at. He just doesn't realize he's looking at a gigantic heart. Okay, my outstanding friends, I mean this with all due respect. Myron Cook is a world-renowned geologist, and he does very, very regular videos on trying to explain these anomalous things. And he has come up with geological reasons this should exist or that should exist. I take it from a biological standpoint, and I would love to interact with Myron. As you will see in this video, I think I have things to offer, at least to discuss. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right, But he's saying that there's all kinds of spaces. There's little holes and larger holes, which is literally blood vessels in this fabric of body tissue. Okay, so this is Fair Use Act. He's asking for answers. I'm here to provide them. This, I'm almost 100% certain, is muscle tissue from a heart. It weaves all gnarly like that. And that right there is an artery in the heart surrounded by actual muscle, which are, you can see the sarcomeres. But this right here by itself is this. Right there, same thing. And you see this little stuff here? That's in there too. This part, all the blood is run out. That's the blood. You see, that's the blood. And the outside is a very, very sophisticated layer. I'll show you that. I ground this down so I could see it in a microscope. And it's quite complicated. And there's where the blood goes right down through this artery. That's a huge, huge artery. And this is huge, huge, huger. Let's get down and look at, see what it is like inside. But we're going to see this really solid core right around the center here. And then all the muscle and fabric goes around that, which is really thin. But right around there, you're going to see that big heavy-duty jobber there. And inside of that, you're going to see the blood. And inside that, you're going to see the hole that has remained. All right, this is the artery I have here. I just showed you. Well, there's the blood. It is not eroded out of this side completely. This is the layers out here. There's a ton of layers. I mean a ton of layers. And you can see it here when you look very closely. That's the center of the artery, and then you have a bazillion little layers around it, which I think we can see quite easily in this shot here. Now, I believe most of this is muscle, because I can see the sarcomeres. You see these little blocks? I don't know if you can see them or not. In other shots I have, you can see the little blocks, and they make the muscle do that. But here is different. This in the center is basically this. All right, and it has this, like right here, the same sort of stuff. It's probably blood. And that's the center that didn't erode, just like this. If that was plugged up, you would see basically the same thing as that. With all this red stuff, probably is artery blood. And then you get to the outside core, which I just showed you, is different than this flaky stuff. This is totally different. That's, I believe, muscle tissue. And that's an artery coming out of the heart, or somewhere in the heart that has eroded to wherever it went to, because surrounding the heart is just a zillion arteries. And as he said before, there's big holes, there's little holes, they're all over the place. That's because it has to be fed with blood, because the heart is using so much blood itself to pump the blood. All right, this is all heart muscle, I believe. Let me show you what heart muscle looks like. And that, I believe, is an artery coming out through the layers of heart muscle, and there is many, many layers. This is what heart muscle looks like, all that gnarly looking stuff that flops around. And if there was an artery over here, you would see something just like that. Exactly what we're seeing coming out of that side wall, which has eroded. All right, so this thing here is all that little heart muscle stuff, and above it is a big mess of tangled, muscly looking stuff. And this is what the artery is coming out. And that's the muscle. This right here is not like all that little layering stuff. That's basically the blood. I believe it's just basically the same as that blood. And like he said, it's just tons of little tiny holes, big ones, little ones. They're all over the place. That's what a heart does. It's just, and all the red artery, and this is artery stuff. They purge. They run out. And the red blood just runs out. It just gets, it's fluid. It turns into like muddy, ruddy, bloody runoff. And he's showing, here's where you can see the heart muscle. You see this? These are sarcomeres. Those are sarcomeres. And these are the layers of muscle. And when they contract, they do this. Now this right here is this here. Totally different than the muscle. Muscle surrounds it. This is that red, heavy-duty stuff. And then, let me see. I think I got another one here. This here surrounds. I believe that's an artery. So Myron's looking for answers. I'd love to engage with him. I did try to before, and I believe these are the three main valves of the heart, which now have collapsed inside. And all of the red bloody tissue is all over the place here. And it's exactly where I would expect to have found them, very close to each other, one smaller and two larger. All right, a heart is going to have lungs, it's going to have other organs, and this is the stuff right here. He's finding the hot springs, these different colored runoffs, and all these enzymes that are creating different colored bacterias and mineral deposits, all running out of the decaying creature's body. And the heart is here as well. They're all, you got to have all the organs together, and there they are. Okay, I respectfully ask if Myron would please contact me. Roger, no D, R-O-G-E-R, at Mudfossils with an S.com. I would love to converse with him and discuss what he's seeing, and I think it's biology. Now, I'd like to discuss it with him, and we could probably confirm this one way or the other, but it would require a little back and forth. Myron, I can be very respectful, my friend, and I think I have been to you. However, I see the things you see, and I have a little different take on them, and we could work it out, my friend. Okay, here's Myron up here walking on the side of this. I can tell you, I believe this is biological tissue. Now, I'm going to show you one up in a microscope that I know for a fact is biological tissue, and this is a membrane. And this is the edge of the membrane way out here. Now, you see the size of my finger compared to the membrane? Now, this is membrane down to here, and then we hit a serious amount of membrane. All right, and then it gets a lot of layers, and you can't even see the layers here. Even if I polish this up, you still wouldn't see them very well, because there's literally the hundreds and hundreds of layers, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can see some of the layering here. But there's layer after layer after layer after layer after layer after layer. And it just keeps getting down and down and down and down and down. And that's basically what he is on right here. All right, now he's getting all the way through the layers down until he hits down here, which is, in my mind, the flesh. Now, if he's on top of the heart now, I don't know, because he was all over the place here. I could see heart, I could see lungs, all of the boiling springs. That's decomposition of the guts. It's exactly what's happened at Yellowstone. And they did a survey, and they actually can see the lungs, the heart, the throat, the thymus. I think I call it the thymus, wraps right around the neck, and then right up through the mouth, which is the hot springs, where it's all boiling out. If it didn't, it would explode. It has to get out somewhere, and this has the same sort of thing. It has all kind of, fluids coming out, and they're mineral. because the body is made of all kinds of different minerals, and they're processed in different areas of the body. As they decompose, they give off those minerals, and then they solidify as pools and so forth. All right, what this is exactly, I'm not certain, but it's some kind of biology, and it's being forced upwards.
And of course, I've been holding information back on you. I'm kind of sly that way. It turns out the very best evidence to explain all this is right behind the camera back here. Let me show you.
Me, Roger. All right, you see this?
Look for features we saw in the ancient outcrops we visited.
Look at all this. This is biological enzymes doing biological things and boiling off because they have no way to get out of here. It's decomposition giving off these hot springs. And as they run out, the minerals that they normally would process turn into these kind of outcrops. You see this?
These deposits are made of a special type of limestone called travertine, which forms in mineral-rich hot springs or in caves.
All right, travertine in mineral-rich hot springs or in caves. That's body cavities and that decomposing body cavities. All right, I want you to see something now. You see what you see in here? This is stepped backwards, and you're seeing all these little steps. You see what's that all about? And then you see a bunch of white right in the middle of a rusty brown color. And you see these little bumps, bump, bump, bump. And you see a lot of these little flat plates. Well, I can show you something very similar if it was in a boiling hot area where you're getting all this boiling hot minerals coming up through and collecting. And it's right up here, which is this block right there. And we're going to be looking at its tissues right there. Now, here's what I want you to consider. If we shave this back that way, you'd have a layer of brown, a layer of black, brown, white, brown, black, brown, gray, all different layers, precisely as you see here. And they would have different bubbling minerals coming out of each different layer because they are different chemistry. When it's percolating up through, it's like percolating up coffee in one area and milk in another, basically, that type of thing. You see that? That's the rock I showed you, which was from the lung. And this is travertine, which is what he's talking about, is all over the place there, which is actually body tissue. All right, you see that? These are building blocks that they use for walls and so forth because they look pretty cool, all modeled up like that, which are, it's nothing more than body tissue that they're cutting up chunks of and making fancy looking walls out of them. The black is the vein blood. The rest, the red stuff runs right out of it, especially when you got hot springs. The red blood just runs out, and the rest is mineralized. There's a lot of veins left because that doesn't run out. Veins are hard. All that black stuff is vein.